3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? It's Ash on Comics. I'm so happy to have you here. Finally doing another bedtime with some nice horror stories. Gideon Falls 2, the featured comic tonight, but also doing a throwback to my era, what I call the greatest era of comics. And yes, it's Chris Claremont's X-Men. And yeah, it doesn't get much better than that. So how is everyone doing tonight? Dun, dun. Let's see here. Eric Breen's falling asleep because he's an old man. Wake up, Eric. I know it's late over there. Appreciate you showing up. See if I can make the text bigger. There we go. Hard. I'm getting old, man. My eyesight's failing me trying to read the chat. Turn off that music. Making you guys all fall asleep. It's bedtime. You're supposed to be falling asleep. That's what I'm here for you. Let's see. RDV, you can review this on Extreme Movie Show. Let's see. Skip, I'm glad you showed up. If you're still here, if everyone's still here, and if I made you guys wait too long, I got the dramatic music. Believe me, it wasn't there just to be pompous. It's there to. I'm like behind the scenes. I'm like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to get everything running the way it's supposed to. So, I think I got it. If you guys can hear me, you guys can tell me if the audio is good or if it's bad, if I'm boring you or whatever. All right. Skip says he's here. Great to see you, buddy. This show, by the way, this bedtime or story time with Ash Live is inspired by Skip, who has a Twitch account that he runs with Wes from Thinking Critical, and he occasionally pops in there and does some comic reading, and I was like, wow, I'm inspired by this. So yeah, you know what they say, what is it? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And yeah, someone put Eric's hearing aids back in. I don't think he's hearing. So all right, so oh, buddy. Why did I give Eric a wrench? Do we need to give you timeout, Eric? So anyways, starting off with a bang, and got the usual clowns in the chat making me feel self-conscious. I got 2 comics in store tonight. The number 1 book is Gideon Falls. I read issue number 1 on the previous episode, and I'm going to keep reading the whole arc, whatever the first arc is. I think it's 5 or 6 issues. I found like my first experimental episode that I did, I just read random comics and stuff, and people are like, read more, because I read like X-O Man of War number 1, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't plan about that. So I was like, okay, I'll read like an arc and get a full story. I wanted to kind of do reaction videos too, though. I wanted to kind of read stuff that I hadn't read and do it live, and you guys get to read it with me. And I haven't read Gideon Falls, even though I bought them. So I thought this would be a really cool thing to do. It kind of fits the bedtime motif, you know, kind of reading a little scary story. And then, so my plan going out, unless you guys tell me it sucks, my plan going out is I'm going to read Gideon Falls as the main event comic, and then I'm going to do like an opening act for it. And today's opening act is, not that, it's X-Men number 201. And Why am I not synced? See, even though I tried to plan this right, I didn't make it work. Let's see. There we go. Let's try this again. All right, there it is. We got X-Men 201. This is a few issues, about 10 issues before I started collecting X-Men back in the 80s. I believe this book came out 85, I want to say. It happened to be some issues that Comixology gave away for free. I have all these physical, and so I was like, well, this would make a great book to, some X-Men I can do without having to like rebuy them digitally. And they just happened to give away some really good X-Men books. So that's pretty cool. I'm just behind the scenes as I'm chatting here and trying to get it so I can still read the chat. And actually do the comic book at the same time. Let's see. I'm not quite as well set up and practiced as this is as Skip and Tosh is. He's got his stuff down. I'm still kind of newbie. There we go. Come on. Comixology app is so weird. Let's see if we can get this working right. Anyways, so I started collecting X-Men on issue 211, but I picked up issue 210 and 211 because in the old days when you went to the grocery store, get the rack, it had multiple issues. So I grabbed them both. And as I was buying and collecting X-Men, I started buying back issues going backwards. And so this was one of the early issues that I read. And this is also one of the ones I got for free. So I kind of flipped through this the other night, and I was like, yeah, I'll do some X-Men issues. I got 4 X-Men issues that I want to read. I got like 4 issues left of Gideon Falls, I believe, 4 or 5. This will fit right in, and we'll get to see some old classic, how Chris Claremont used to do it. And I haven't read these books in over 20 years, but then I ended up reading this book. Like as I was flipping through, I just couldn't stop reading it. So basically, I'm kind of blathering right now because I wanted to give people time to find the stream and come in before I just started reading, and then people come in halfway through the book. I didn't do any announcements today because I didn't have my shit together. So hopefully that's going to all improve. Mr. Rockfish, I see, is in the chat. Welcome. This book is when I read it, it wasn't one of my favorites because I'll be quite honest, I wasn't a big fan of Storm back in the day. And I really didn't like this version of Storm because she didn't have her powers anymore. And I was like, well, if she doesn't have powers, she doesn't belong on the X-Men. So I was a little bit, and I was like 13 years old, so you gotta forgive me. But now reading this book today as a grown man, I have a completely different respect for it. I just see the book in a different light. The artist of this book is Rick Leonardi, who is one of the unsung artists, I believe, of X-Men, because there's so many great X-Men artists. I mean, this was like the pinnacle. If you were a comic book pro in mainstream comics and you wanted to show off to the world that I'm the best of the best, getting on X-Men is like getting picked up by the Yankees. It's just like, that's just where all the superstars went. And Rick Leonardi's name usually doesn't get mentioned because you've got like John Byrne, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Alan Davis, Dave Cockrum, John Romita Jr. actually in his heyday, and Leonardi's actually one of my favorite X-Men artists. So maybe you'll get to see why if you haven't read X-Men during this time. I know Quirks had a discussion with him behind the scenes. Was it yesterday? I think it was. And I was talking about, he's not into Chris Claremont's X-Men and stuff. And I kind of understand it from his perspective. This is old-timey comics, When I was his age, it was like comics from the 60s were kind of the equivalent, and they were old timey to me. So hopefully this will entertain you. This greatly entertains me. The setting for this book is Charles Xavier has had some crazy life-threatening disease. It's going to kill him, and the only way to save his life is the Shi'ar Empire. Professor Xavier is banging the Empress of the Shi'ar Empire, essentially. So he's got it kind of fortunate. She shows up, she rescues him and says, you got to take him away to outer space. There's only our technology can keep him alive, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, for all intents and purposes, Charles Xavier might as well be dead. He's off halfway across the universe, and the X-Men are finding themselves, for the first time, I believe, no, for the first real time without Professor X. And also, Professor X has tasked Magneto with taking over the mansion and everything in the school. And not all the X-Men are totally jiving with that. This is what spawned off the X-Men versus the Avengers miniseries, which is really cool. And the Trial of Magneto issue, which was the issue right before this, issue 200. Really cool stuff. So at this point, Cyclops is married to Madeline Pryor, who's the clone of Jean Grey. And they have a baby. She had just given birth, and now Cyclops isn't quite sure if he's ready to continue leading the X-Men or not, because they're kind of at their worst point ever, and his wife doesn't want him, just like, you gotta stay with me and the baby. And then Storm kind of realizes his heart's not into it, and that the X-Men need a real leader. So that's kind of what this issue's all about. So let me take a drink and we'll get into this. When the X-Men returned home from Paris, they found a big surprise waiting for them. Madeline, you had a baby! Cyclops, you're a father! Duel. A Stan Lee presentation starring the Uncanny X-Men by Chris Claremont and Rick Leonardi, with Will Spartasio guest inker. Look at that, I totally had forgotten. Will Spartasio getting his early start way back when. And take a quick look there at the bottom. Who's the best editor-in-chief ever that was doing this? Who's the primary editor of the X-Men? That's Ann Nesenti, Jim Shooter. Look at this; it's full of talent. This whole book. So you see, everyone's like, "Oh, look at the baby." Truly, a chip off the old block. Tell me, is it a boy or a girl? A boy, silly man. Can't you tell, Nightcrawler? Big flamin' deal. You seen one brat, you seen 'em all. To think, Wolverine, you also looked once like that. I wonder, comrades, how will he feel growing up with such as we for godparents? Blessed, of course, Colossus. The dear lad could do a lot for us, in both looks and manners. Then take after me! Give us a break, Fuzzy Elf. Use your telekinetic powers against me, will you? That, Liebchen, means war. Nightcrawler, no fair, please. Don't tickle me. I can't stand it. Oh, no. Oh, for this while, I mean, blasted creep, not the tail. You rotten, mean brute. Should we interfere? Raise a big girl, Colossus. She can take care of herself. Crawler pulled this stunt with me once. Won't try it again, though. He's supposed to be the team leader. He's supposed to set an example. Do me a favor, kitty? Sure, Madeline, anything. Hey! Just for a minute, okay? While I talk to Storm. But, oh golly, oh gosh. Suppose I drop, he cries. Madeline! Cute kid. Aw. This isn't so hard. That's the spirit, kitty. You look well, Madeline. I'm fine, Roro. Strong as an ox and tough as nails. Heck, I walked away from a crash and burning 747. I can survive anything. I gotta admit, it's certainly nice to look down and see my toes again. I'm glad the X-Men made it home safe from the radio and TV reports. Paris sounded pretty rough. Is it true about the Professor Xavier? That he won't be coming back? I fear so. And it appears our former archfoe Magneto means to take his place. Goodness. What is wrong, Madeline? I sense great rage. Barely held in check. Why are you so angry? Have you any idea what happened here? I've been away and out of touch for quite a while. I knew you were pregnant, little more. I was so happy. In the beginning, it was like a storybook, complete with the classic ending. They lived happily ever after. Scott came back to the X-Men because he felt he was needed. I followed from our home in Alaska because I wanted us to be together for the birth of our child. He and the X-Men went off to Asgard, rescued you, and I was left on my own. X-Men Annual number 9, if you want to read that story. It's pretty good. I recommend it. No problem. I coped. Always have, always will. But then you all returned, materializing in France, for heaven's sake. And Kitty phoned, you phoned. Almost everyone called to see how I was except my husband. Not a word, not a peep. He had more important things on his mind. I gave birth to my son on this floor. I was lucky. Almost before I realized I was in labor, I had a baby in my arms. I reached the hospital. Everything was all right. But it could have been different. My boy could have died. I could have died. I understand that Scott's not being here, but he at least should have let me know he cared. He's a very private man. Such feelings are hard for him to face, much less reveal. But they are there, Madeline. He does love you very much. That's what I thought. Now, though, Aurora, more and more, I find myself asking for proof. Want to hold him a while, Rachel? Okay, I guess. What a face. He likes you. Hey, kiddo, say hello to your big sister. Shush. Cyclops will hear. I don't want him to know. Kitty, would you like to hear the baby's thoughts? I'll silence us. Now, at this point in the story, as you probably guessed, Rachel Summers, she's from the future. She's Cyclops and Jean Grey's daughter, not Madeline Pryor. But Cyclops doesn't know that it's his daughter. So that's what's going on there. Wow, that's beautiful. Ray, you can't hide the truth forever. I know. I'll tell him real soon, I promise. I never had a brother. In my timeline, the future era I came from, the world was harsh and cruel, and it killed mutants. This world, this timeline, your future baby boy is going to be different. I'll protect you, whatever it takes. I'll find a way to save you. Now, this is a plot line for those of you that read X-Men that would be revisited about 80 issues later with the Ascani son storyline, but I won't get into that. Meanwhile, outside, I'm a father. I have a son. Why aren't you here, Professor, to share that joy with me? Careful, Cyclops. Remember what he taught you. I can't open my eyes in the slightest bit till I don my ruby quartz glasses, or my optic blast will lever whatever's in front of me. There, that's safely done. Where are you, Professor Xavier? What's happened in Paris between you and Magneto? Can we trust him? Is he telling the truth? Now, this little part right here is something a lot of modern comic fans have a problem with the thought balloons, number one. But also sort of like the characters. You can see here, Cyclops, he's basically bringing the reader up to speed. There used to be a philosophy at Marvel and DC where every comic was someone's first comic. And so there was like a craft to basically getting the reader caught up to speed really quick in like one or two balloons. And here, if you had never read X-Men before, you had no idea what you were reading, you immediately know, okay, hey, he can't control his optic blast, and he needs these special glasses. And so Chris Claremont, he's not doing this because that's the way he thinks the writing should be. That was the craft of comic books. And a lot of modern writers, no one does this anymore, because it's felt like, oh, this is intrusive and people don't want to read it. But the flip side is that no one can really get into comics anymore. If you pick up any modern comic right now, you're just like, you're lost. You don't know what's going on. You don't even know half the characters' names for like 8 issues. So this is something that I thought Claremont was really good at. He would give you a lot of information, and for people who like, 30 years in the future, all this stuff, it feels overblown, but in the time, this was absolutely necessary. And as a reader at this time, I was going back and learning X-Men for the first time. This all mattered for me. Continuing on. Oh wait, before we continue on, let me check the chat here. Let's see. Anyone join? Tehillim's here. Hey, Tehillim. And Maranya's joined us. Good to see you, Maranya. Let's see. Let's see. Maranya says the only X-Men who's died more than Professor X is Jean Grey, Phoenix. Let's see. And she still has terminal freezer burn from all the times that she's been fridged and thawed out. Nice one. That's kind of true. All right. So continuing on. Far away, a great renegade starship flees for her life. She and her legendary crew share the same name, Starjammer. Now this was cool. And this is what I want to point out too. A few things about this book you're going to notice is, unlike modern comics today, this book is like weaving like 3 or 4 different storylines that are going on that Claremont was juggling, and not just for like an issue. Here we are going out into space with the Starjammers, and I don't know if you know who this girl is right here on the panel. That's Carol Danvers at her best, before she became what we know her as today. I love this version of Carol, Binary. This is their newest recruit, an expatriate Terran born Carol Danvers. Now, though, she prefers to be known as Binary. Welcome, Binary. How went your reconnaissance? Lousy, Chod. I've covered the hull from stem to stern, Corsair. I'm sorry, but everything I've seen only bears out Waldo's assessment. We're not just crippled. We're lucky we're still whole. Told you, vessel integrity 43%, power systems 61%. Oops. Operational life systems 47%, war systems 11%, main energy weapons completely dysfunctional. Enough, Waldo, I get the picture. This is my fault. If you hadn't risked everything to save me, you, friend Charles Xavier, would now be history. I, for one, much prefer you the hale and hearty way you are. If anyone is to blame, Charles, it is I. That's the truth, Featherbrain. Give it a rest, Hepzibah. What's done is done. This scrapping amongst ourselves isn't getting us anywhere. Nor, boss, will the engines for much longer if some very heavy-duty repairs aren't undertaken immediately. The ultralight super star drive is totaled, so we haven't a prayer of reaching Earth on our own. Using the regular warp system would mean a journey of centuries, and thanks to the raid that rescued you, every Shi'ar Stargate will be too heavily defended for us to try that route. And finally, there's a hunter-killer squadron hot on our tail, which means our own survival is in considerable doubt. I'm sorry, Charles, but there's no way that we can take you home. Dun, dun, dun. Not now. Maybe. Not ever. And so here we have just like a page or two of subplot of Charles and the Starjammers lost in space. Charles says to Liliana, "What a magnificent sight. I never before realized how beautiful, how serenely majestic space is. It has always seemed my home more than any world in the Imperium." Wait, I'm going to read that again. "It has always seemed more my home than any world in the Imperium. I think that is true of everywhere, Starjammer. We are we are all of us, in a sense, lost souls. And you can kind of see in the stars here, if you look, there's some letters. I'm not sure what they say, but you can definitely make out those stars are in the form of letters. There's some sort of Easter egg in there. Corsair told me where to look, but try as I might, I can't see the Milky Way galaxy. It's too far away. All the stars I see are alien, as am I. I keep thinking of my students, the X-Men and the New Mutants. What will become of them? Did I make a mistake, Lilandra, entrusting them to the man who was once my deadliest foe, Magneto? And yet, in those long ago days when he and I were friends, was he a good man? Or he was a good man. I believe he can be so again. But had I the right to gamble with the lives and the futures of my children? So here we go again. This is kind of some exposition that gets the reader up to speed. Oh, Magneto was once a villain. Like, if this is your first book, you're like, oh, okay. Perhaps not, but that decision cannot be changed. To dwell on it, to torment yourself with thoughts of what if or what might be, is a waste of time and effort. You are here, you are still alive, and you are needed. Let that be enough to sustain you, as your presence does me. Oh, Charles, light of my heart, I could not have borne losing you. Wow, chicka, wow, wow. So Charles is getting some haughty Empress. I mean, talk about, seriously, like, being out of your league. Like, marrying up, so to speak. An Empress of an entire galactic empire. Yeah, and the dude's handicapped. He's wheelchair bound. Of course, not at this point. Nor I, you, beloved. Meanwhile, back at the school, we see Cannonball, and I'm not going to read what's on the text. He's just writing up a paper, and he's blah 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 blah, and then it all flips out on the screen, and we see him like, huh, what? Oh no, 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 no. Lousy, stinking, rotten machine. It ain't fair. You can't do this to me. That was my term paper. And yes, boys and girls, this is what computers look like. This is what we had to work with. This probably wasn't even a computer. This is probably like a word processing unit. And you guys don't know how lucky you have it these days. A month's work down the drain, and I ain't got a clue how to get it back. I want to cry. Meanwhile, oblivious to their schoolmates' misery, and this was kind of a trope of the X-Men. Every once in a while, you just see them like lounging around the manor and just socializing, and hear the famous softball scenes that would appear once in a while. Swing batter, easy out, kitty, you can do it. And just take a look at this. It just looks so out of place in today's culture. I mean, women barely wearing any clothes. Guys are just like muscle ripped. It's just, this is so different. Strike two. As Colossus swings and misses. That's a cool shot. I just like this, even though it's just playing softball. It just, there's a dynamicism to the art here. Kid has a wicked fastball. Ja, I thought you wanted to be a dancer, Kachin. Who says I can't do both? Wolverine, I'm worried about Scott and Madeline and Rachel. There's trouble ahead, mein friend. What should we do? Maybe for once leave well enough alone? This is certain to affect Cyclops' ability to lead the team. And I don't know about you, but this panel is really problematic with the male gaze. Who says he's going to? Crunch. Here it comes, Colossus. My fastball. Pow! This is a cool shot, I thought, too. Just look at you. I mean, you just feel the momentum, the action, the power. And then boom, he just knocks the ball up into the upper atmosphere. I think this one will reach orbit. Hang loose, y'all. I'll get it. Rogue, be careful. Oh, pooh, Night Elf. This high up, who's gonna see me? So Rogue flies up. Of course, there's Air Force One. Just happens to be flying by. You have a meeting with Senator Dole, followed by the reception for the New York Mets to congratulate them on winning the World Series. Then Sir Dr. Valerie Cooper. Mr. President? Is anything the matter? I'm not sure, Don. Take a look out the window. Do you see what I see? And this is President Reagan, or a close depiction of him, at least. Just looking out and seeing a scantily clad girl floating. And this back in this time, this was cool. Like, not that this particular, like, playing softball was cool, but there was a sense of wonder in comics, and the writers and artists appreciated that. That it wasn't like nowadays, you know, like in Marvel, it just feels like superheroes are just everywhere. Everyone's a superhero, whatever, got powers, blah blah blah. But it was like they weren't marvelous, and I miss this era. And then Rogue comes up to the glass, smooch, and leaves a little lipstick print, and that's just a cool little shot there. Ronald Reagan looking out. I think, Don, we better keep this between ourselves. A little bit later, so much for my perfect career. I'm too bushed to go the long way around. My shoulder's killing me. The sooner I give it a good hot soak, the better. So I'll take a shortcut to my room. By phasing through the classroom. Oh, hi, Sam. We missed you at the game. I wanted to play, Kitty, but I had to finish my paper. And now this infernal machine's gone and eaten it. No problemo, man. I'm your bona fide grade A #1 cute as it can be computer whiz. I'll have that sucker up and running in a jiff. And Sam is this little heart balloon. He's just like, much later. Me and my big mouth. I surprised myself by sorting out that mess. Kitty, your ophthalmology appointment has been scheduled. Yuck. Glasses. Yuck. You need them. I know, Aurora, but I don't have to like it. Do me a favor, please, Kat. Take your shower in the gym. Why can't I use my room? What's that? Who's yelling? Aurora, it's coming from your attic. I loaned the loft to Scott and Madeline. A fight? A bad one? Oh, crumbs. So meanwhile, up in the attic, we see Scott and Madeline. I have to stay to lead the team. Why? Because I'm needed. Professor Xavier's gone, and Magneto, the X-Men's oldest, deadliest foe, is in charge of the school. He says he's reformed, that he's promised the professor that he'd take good care of the New Mutants. Just bet he will. You don't believe Magneto? Not for an instant. For all we know, he may have murdered Professor X himself. What about me? I have a life of my own, a career. Do you expect me to chuck it? I thought the baby had changed that. It's our child, chum, our responsibilities. I have skills. I can earn a living. Can you say the same? I have a responsibility to the X-Men, Madeline. There's no one else to do the job, not Aurora. Storm has no powers. She'd be a liability in a combat situation. Listen to yourself, Scott. Are you saying you and you alone are absolutely essential to the X-Men's survival? Or are you afraid they really can get along without you? Is your life so hollow, your sense of self-worth so fragile that you believe that you're nothing without them? What about me? What about us? My commitment to you supersedes everything. Are you telling me the same doesn't hold true in reverse? Stands there in silence. Excuse me, but a decision must be made. One of us must lead. The best way to choose, I feel, is a duel. You and I, Cyclops, alone in the danger room. Unless, of course, you would rather step aside. No. There's some good panels here. I like how it transitions the story. You can see the drama. In the danger room, heart of a vast complex buried beneath the mansion, Magneto shepherds the school's novice group, the New Mutants, through a training session. Excuse me, Cypher. Would you and the others mind terminating your session? Storm and I need the room. Query. Who knows, Warlock, and who cares? The X-Men are the senior team. They can pull rank and hog the facilities whenever they like. Cyclops would not do so, Sunspot, without a good reason. Cypher, can you program us an appropriate environment, please? Sure, Aurora. A single fall, Storm. Winner take all? I'll keep my optic blast on ultra-low power. As you wish. A duel? Ileana Cyclops versus Storm. This is crazy. How'd it happen? My money's on the lady. Any takers? Program's loaded and running. Good Lord. I know this is the danger room, that this setting is a mix of illusion and reality, three-dimensional holograms and physical props, but it seems so lifelike. There's sight, sound, even smells. The deception is perfect. Splendid, Douglas. Cyclops' optic blasts are his advantage. This environment you created is mine. We are evenly matched. I'll make this short and sweet, Storm. Crack! You are certainly welcome to try, my friend. Storm dodges away. She's so fast, and as agile as a cat. The way she's moving, using every scrap and corner, I can't get a decent shot. Okay, I'll put myself in her shoes. Think like she does. Try to figure out her next move. Aurora, hiding in the shadows, lashes out her belt, trips up Cyclops. Oh, she's blocking my optic beam with my own arm. Get some nice acrobatic action. She flips over Cyclops' head, runs away as Cyclops blasting her. And these are some cool panel work. Really tells the story. A good ambush, but Cyclops easily escaped. He shouldn't have been nailed in the first place. No secret who you're rooting for. Aurora can do the job. Scotty can't. Not anymore. His head may be in it, but not his heart. That's blunting his instincts, throwing off his timing. His mistakes are only little ones, but sooner or later, they'll cost him. Why doesn't Madeline understand? I have a duty, but to her too? Suppose she's right. I'm so afraid. The professor was always more my father than my real father. Shouldn't a son naturally want to take his father's place? Oh, some little rocks dropping from above. Huh? Zach! I was lucky. I've got to stop daydreaming, or I'm in big trouble. Why can't I figure Storm out? Where is she? What is she gonna do? The reservations are made, baby. This time tomorrow, we'll be on our way home. I want Scott to lose so he'll be coming with us. Except losing will break his heart. Oh, why can't it be because he wants to instead of because he has no other choice? But none of this has any meaning to you, does it, Sweet Pea? Boom. Storm clouds. So long as you're fed and warm and loved and you're happy, we should all be so lucky. The sky was perfectly clear a minute ago. Where did this storm come from? So that was a little bit of foreboding too, because Storm's powers, where she didn't have her powers. So there would be times where things like this would happen and you'd be wondering, is this have to do with Storm? She's behind me. Bzam. Missed. My visor. Storm leaps over his head, grabs his visor. I got it. I have to keep my eyes closed and covered. The ruby quartz lens in my visor is my sole means of controlling my optic blasts. Without it, you are effectively helpless, Cyclops. You dare not unleash your eye beams without risking killing everyone around you. Our duel is over. The best X-Men won, Storm. Congratulations. And good luck. I don't believe it. I'm dreaming. This isn't happening. I lost? I don't like it, but I'll have to learn to live with it. There's no more place for me here. I wonder, after all I've said and done, if there's now any place with Madeline. Epilogue. The home of John and Elaine Gray. So there we see Rachel Summers, visited tonight by a granddaughter that they don't even know exists. I didn't mean to break the memory crystal, but I pray that I can repair it. All I have to do is realign the energy matrices. The holographic image is reforming, and the empathic resonances are still intact, unaffected by the damage. It's like I was holding Mom in person, as if she was really in here with me. But I'm not done. There's one more element to add. So here she is kind of using her psychic powers to add herself into this crystal energy memory matrix thingamabob. She's never heard her power sing within her before. So as she's doing this, all of a sudden, something that has not happened yet, it's a glorious moment as she pours her heart and soul into the crystal sphere she holds. A moment, a song, whose repercussions are felt 250,000 miles away. So, remember the moon, the battle where Jean Grey lost her life? In a back alley on the moon where Jean Grey sacrificed herself to save the universe. Some sort of energy stirring and launches up into space. And then we see the Watcher. It begins. But as to the ending, who can say? As before, I may not act. My charge is ever to observe, for I am the Watcher. I hope, Mom, that you don't mind the company. I've added a piece of my essence to share the hollow empathic matrix crystal with yours. Goodbye, Grandpa. Goodbye, Gran. Maybe the world of my father and the Rachel Summers who lived in it will never be, but I exist. And now I hope I'll be remembered. So there she is with her mother in the hollow matrix thingy, and next to slay the Beyonder. One of my favorite covers of an X-Men issue ever. This got me giddy. I love the Sentinels, are my favorite. I love this issue. But Rachel Summers as Phoenix battling the Beyonder, you just don't get. I miss those old days of X-Men. But that was issue 201 of the original Chris Claremont run of X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men. The best it was. I hope you guys had some enjoyment out of that. I certainly did. It's one of my... that particular issue is not necessarily one of my favorites, but what I kind of wanted to read it because this was a down issue. This was not the X-Men on their adventures. This is one of those issues that Claremont would do every once in a while to sort of like reground the team. You see him just around the mansion doing stuff, but yet even when that was happening, they're just sitting playing softball or they're like doing homework, there was still a lot of story happening because there was this overarching mythology that Chris Claremont was constantly developing with the whole Shi'ar Empire and, like the relationship with the X-Men. You had the Starjammers. You got Phoenix, this, one of the biggest cosmic entities in all of Marvel. It started in the X-Men. And the whole storyline that Rachel Summers coming from the future, hunted by, she used to be a hound in the days of future past. She comes from that future to, try to prevent it from ever happening. And then she kind of inherits the Phoenix Force because she's got her mom's DNA, and I guess the Phoenix is attracted to her. And then, of course, this is all happening during Secret Wars 2. And so the way that they wrote comics back then, things mattered. Even in a book where they're just sitting around playing baseball or softball, whichever. I think it was baseball. Things are happening that really matter. This issue is all about where she's starting to get the Phoenix Force. And, they just don't do that anymore. Nowadays, it's like, oh, here's a big event, and now we're going to just make some one-off comics for you to buy that don't really have anything to do with anything. And, anyways. Yeah. And Marania says, I was never really a fan of X-Men, but issues like this make me really want to check that run out. Yeah, I highly recommend it. And one of the things I was trying to tell Quirks about last night when we were discussing it is Chris Claremont, in my opinion, is not a type of writer that you can appreciate on a single issue. I mean, maybe you can. But when you take the larger run as a whole, if you read, like 50 issues in a row, and you start to see it all kind of come together, and it's like how everything interconnects, and it's like a soap opera. It really is. I mean, people who watch soap operas, such as Eric Breen here in the chat, can probably back me up on this. If you sit down and watch one episode of General Hospital, I know me, I'm going to be bored to tears. But if I sat down for a month and watched every single episode, I would probably get caught up into the drama. And then I would be like, oh my God, what's going on? X-Men had that sort of effect. As you read issue after issue, they were constantly, Chris Claremont wasn't dropping the ball. Everything mattered. And this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of a big fan of Donny Cates today when it comes to modern Marvel comics, because he's the only writer at Marvel whose work like constantly interconnects. Everything he does connects backwards and forwards. And so it's fun to read his stuff and feel like, oh, this matters to something that he did in the past, and I know this is going to matter about something he has yet to do. And it keeps you wanting to go forward. And that's one of the great things, in my opinion, about ongoing mainstream comics. So, yeah, Eric says soaps are manly. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It was a little bit of a challenge to read, because one thing that you'll notice for certain, and this was even the case when I was reading in the 80s, people talked in comics not like real life. Like there was a certain, I think someone earlier said in the chat that there was like a certain poetry, and the way Chris Claremont wrote the X-Men, it had a certain like comic book talk. Like people only talked this way in comics. And once you're used to it, you just accepted it, and it wasn't a big deal. But to read it, it's hard, because my mind sees the words and wants to see them in a way that flows in a normal conversation that I'm used to. So reading out loud was a little bit more of a challenge. Let's see. Skip and Tosh is definitely a staple theme of soaps, interwoven storylines that stretch over a short and long scale. Yeah, definitely. Comics Quirk says Breen lies. Always. He's always lying. Rania says, yes, Irish Spring is a manly soap. Let's see. Daredevil on Netflix was a soap. Yep. Totally was. I mean, Daredevil today is still a soap. I mean, that's kind of, to be quite honest, I think that's one of my allures to Daredevil. When he's written kind of well, it is kind of a soap. But Daredevil was very much more grounded in a smaller scale story about like his neighborhood. Whereas the X-Men, one of the things that grabbed me, at least as a youth, like was, hey, here you got these guys, they live in this school and they got powers, but they go everywhere. I mean, they go to hell, they go to Asgard, they go all over the galaxy. They have fights, in New York, they fight the Avengers, and like their adventures are just fantastic. Where Daredevil, it's like he's in Hell's Kitchen again, and no slight against Daredevil, but it was a much more grounded type of story. CW shows were very soapy. Kinda. I think Yeah, I mean, CW shows just feel very YA novel. They feel like, I would call CW shows very melodramatic. Um, so uh, that was fun. So if you can see here on the screen, no, I don't have. Why is this all off? Man, I'm such a bad streamer. Let's get this right. There we go. So what I was going to say is, you can see here, this is my Comixology library, and I've put in some books here that I was thinking about reading on the channel, aside from the Gideon Falls issues. So here's some other Uncanny X-Men. I want to do 211 probably on the next one. And then after that, issue 266, the first appearance of Gambit. And then after that, 281, which was the new Uncanny X-Men when Jim Lee got his own series, and then they reformed. Basically, they took X Factor and put it into X-Men. But it was a cool book. These are all fantastic, examples of different times in X-Men lore during my heyday, the time that I look at most fondly. I guess a Daredevil book here. Like I don't know, Middle West maybe. I know Jimmy, if he's still here, he'll be flipping out. But let's get on to Gideon Falls. That's the big main event book. Eric says, do Luke and Laura's wedding. Luke and Laura's wedding. Why am I drawing a blank? Luke and Laura. Remind me, Eric. I'm drawing a blank. Let's see. Melissa says, I recommend you guys read Alex Ross Marvels. Absolutely. I will second that. The miniseries Marvels by Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek actually wrote it, is one of my favorite comics of all time. It's beautifully illustrated with, Alex Ross painted art through and through. And the story, every bit lives up to the art. It's phenomenal. Like it's awesome. Let's see. X-Men is a title that tackles every genre, says Maverick. Hey, buddy, good to see you. He's right. It does. It does tackle every genre. Ronnie says, I'd rather have an episodic sort of tale that is dense with story rather than a super stretched out writing for the trades that takes a glimmer of an idea and stretches it beyond limits. Absolutely. 100% agree. This one book, which just had the X-Men playing softball and, doing homework and there was more plot stuff that happened in this book than like 6 issues of many modern Marvel books. The decompression of modern writing today is so bad. Let's see. I have the original hardbound edition of Marvels with the extra stuff. Oh, that's nice. I'm jealous. Let's see. Eric says, General Hospital, don't act like you don't know. I honestly don't know, but nice one. Let's see. Melissa says, is it Kingdom Come and Astro City and Earth X are my favorite. Yeah, I mean, it's all Kurt Busiek. So, actually, I'm not sure if Kurt Busiek did Earth X, but he did he didn't do Kingdom Come either. He did Astro City. Kingdom Come was Alex Ross and Mark Waid. Everyone's favorite Mark Waid. I need to take just a moment, before I continue on here. My dog is telling me she needs to go outside, so I'm going to put on the be right back graphic. You guys want to take a little potty break or get a drink, now's the time. I should be back in about 60 seconds. All right, time for the main event. Hopefully we have a few people still left joining us. If you have not, if this is the first time you're seeing this one, this is going to be issue 2 of Gideon Falls. So hopefully, you know, you're going to be behind. But all of these are up on my channel if you want to catch the replays. I'm going to try to put the timestamps also for anyone that's listening. So if you're watching replays and you just want to catch the comic and not hear all the jibber jabber, you can do the timestamps. Let's see. All right, so I know what happened here. I know I resized my windows for the just so I could see the chat, and it messed up in OBS the positioning of the graphics. So this OBS can do a lot of cool stuff, but it's it also is a little, it's a little complex and can be very user unfriendly, if you will. Let's see. Ash is chasing his dog through the neighborhood. Yeah, I'm too old to be doing that. Fortunately, she's really well behaved, and I don't have to chase her anywhere. Let's see. There we go. I just think I'm gonna have to read the chat on my iPad, so Whatever, you guys don't care about this stuff. So this is Gideon Falls, issue number 2 by Jeff Lemire, art by Andre Sorrentino. All the little sinners say hallelujah. So hopefully you've been following along so you can follow the story. This is a bedtime story with Ash. Enjoy. You're doing great, Norton. I'm proud of you. I thank you. What is it? That bench back there. There's trash under it. I want to look. I haven't, not yet. But I really want to look back. Well, that's good. That's good that you told me instead of just looking, Norton. Let's just keep walking. We'll keep walking all the way through the park, and you just keep doing what you've been doing. This has been a great exercise for you. You need to start engaging more with the world around you, Norton. Not your fantasy world. Keep your eyes up, off the ground, away from the gutters and the trash bins, Instead, take a real look at what's going on around you, at real life, real people. But I think I might need what's back there. I mean, really need it. And what is it you think is back there in the garbage? A piece, an important piece. I have a feeling. A piece of what? I can't tell you. Why not? Because if you know what it is I'm finding, I don't think you'll be safe anymore. How about this? If I say it's okay for you to go back and look through the trash, will you tell me? I really don't think I should tell you. It might put you in danger. I can take care of myself, Norton. So do we have a deal? Fine. Come on. He's rummaging through the trash. Norton? False alarm. There's nothing here. Okay. Now, you tell me. I really don't think I should. Norton, I need to know. If we are really going to try and help you get better, I need to know everything. What is it you think you're finding in the trash? I only recently came to know what it was that I've been hunting. How did this revelation come to you? Dreams. Always the same. I've been having them since I was a kid, but more frequently again lately. And then it dawned on me, this is what I was finding, piece by piece. The black barn. That's right, a barn. An old barn. There's no barn back behind the Redding house. There's nothing. There's nothing there except the cornfield, Father. Well, I saw a barn. Maybe it was earlier on my way back there. I don't know. It's all a bit of a blur now. All I really remember clearly is poor Miss Tremblay lying there. You have to believe me, Sheriff. I found her like that. I never would. It was horrible. Well, Father Quinn, you have to see things from my point of view. You're brand new to town. You're the last person to see Jean Tremblay alive. And your story is, well, quite frankly, it's full of bullshit, Father. And I told you exactly what happened. Father Tom, the priest who I came here to replace, he came to my room. I followed him out into that field. Father Tom has been dead for 2 weeks. Well, then what the hell was he doing in my bedroom? I am telling you he's alive, and if I were you, I would be out there looking for him, not wasting your time with me. Father Tom drowned. We found his car by the creek. His jacket on the riverbank and his wallet in the water. Combed the bottom for hours, but the tide probably pulled him down to the lake. So there was no body. See? I'm telling you, he's not dead. Let me ask you, Father, were you drinking tonight? What? No. Well, a couple before bed, but what does that have to do with anything? I did some calling around. You were moved from your last 2 parishes. Local cops and the last one said you had a hell of a problem with the drink. Ran into a bit of trouble up there. Ran into a bit of trouble up there. Didn't you? Public intoxication, disorderly conduct, assault. I made some mistakes. That's all behind me now. And that has nothing to do with what happened tonight. This, by the way, is a problem in modern comics I see all the time, where you have dialogue boxes that are off camera and you don't know who's talking. It really annoys me. And it's editors should be doing something about that. I'm sorry, Father Quinn, but I just don't believe that. Clara, maybe we should go easy here. What? Are you kidding me, Reggie? Look, it's just that Sheriff Miller? Tony, I told you not to interrupt us. I know you did, Clara. It's just... There's been another one. We found another body. Ding. Hello. He's riding the elevator down. And for some reason, I don't know, because I have not read Gideon Falls before, so I'm as new to this as anyone else. The storyline likes to show this character upside down, or in this case now sideways. And I'm not sure what element that has to do with the story yet. No. Locks are broken. If you can remember his apartment complex, his apartment, he like bolted the door and he had tons of locks on him. Now it looks like everything's been rummaged. The jars are all broken, empty. All the samples are hanging on the wall. Hello, Bishop. It's me. It's Fred. And I'm in a bit of trouble here. Bishop? I'm here. What is it, Fred? What have you done now? That's just it. I haven't done anything. But I hardly know where to start. There's been a murder, or possibly murders, here in Gideon Falls, and I'm what do they call it? A person of interest. I see. That is terrible news, Wilfred. Well, yes, it sure as hell is. I need help here, Bishop, a lawyer, something. I doubt that will be necessary. Not necessary, Bishop? Are you not hearing what I'm saying here? This is very serious. Did you do it? What? I asked, did you do it? Did you commit these murders, Wilfred? Of course not. Then there's nothing to worry about. I'm sure it will all be cleared up. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Look, that's not all of it. Father Tom is alive and mixed up in all this somehow. I see. You see? You see? What would you like me to say, Wilfred? It all sounds very unbelievable, but I do believe you, and I trust you to do the right thing. The right thing? I want out of this crazy place, Bishop. As soon as they let me go, I'm getting my car and driving back to the seminary. Wilfred, I knew that I needed to send you to Gideon Falls, and now I know why. God's plan has been made abundantly clear. Gideon Falls will need you more than ever in the wake of these crimes. Are you serious? Quite. You have work to do, Wilfred. Goodbye. All done, Father? Apparently. Sound like a bit of a ball buster, eh? The bishop, I mean. Sorry, I know that's not the best language. Oh, no. You got it right, Deputy. Ballard. Tony Ballard. Deputy Ballard, the bishop is a world-class ball breaker. Well, for what it's worth, Father, I believe you. You do? Yes. Why? Let's just say I got a feeling. And, when this gets cleared up, you should really go see the Doc Sutton. Doc Sutton? Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He might be able to help you out. Help me? Help me how? Probably shouldn't say anything else about it. I'd get in a lot of trouble if Sheriff Miller knew I was even talking to you like this. Deputy, if there's something you should tell me. Nothing. Make yourself comfortable, Father. I'll let you know if there's any developments as soon as I hear. Goddamn wonderful. Mr. Sinclair? Norton? I need to see Dr. Zhu. Norton, you can't. I have to see her now. Debbie, I'm with Norton. What's going on? Something's happened. I have to come in. Norton, I am with another patient. I don't care. I have to see you. This is totally inappropriate behavior. But they've been in my apartment. They took my things. Okay. Sydney, I'm very sorry about this. Can we reschedule? Thank you, Sydney. I'm very sorry about this. It's no problem, really, Dr. Zhu. Norton, what is this about? You can't just come on here like this. I have other patients, other responsibilities other than you. I know, I'm sorry, but I told you they broke into my apartment. They compromised my lab. Who? Who broke in? I don't know who. Not exactly. Someone who doesn't want me to find the Black Barn. I've suspected there's someone following me for a while now. You're being paranoid. No, this is real. The locks on my door were broken. They took some of my samples, old nails, and that's not all. They took my scalpel, too. Oh, Norton. You don't believe me. I believe that you believe these things, but I think you're right, Norton. I think you do need my help. The work I've been doing here clearly isn't enough. You're getting worse. I think you need to come back to the hospital. What? No, I'm not coming back to live here. The barn, I need to find the rest of it. Now, more than ever. I'm sorry, Norton, but I can't let you stay on your own. Not now, not after this. I trusted you. I came here for help, and this is what you do, Doc? You betray me, lock me up? Norton, don't do this. Forget it. I'm done with this. I'm done with you. Meanwhile, out somewhere in the forest. Where is it, Reggie? Just through here, Clara, and it's real bad. Pull up to the scene of the crime. Sheriff, what do we have? Told them to wait, Clara. Thought you'd want to see it for yourself. Jesus. Close, but not quite. Father Tom. But he drowned weeks ago. How is... This is fresh, Sheriff. He's only been dead an hour at most. Looks like Father Fred was telling the truth. What is it, Reggie? Something in his hand. Looks like a nail. It's a nail? I know it's not professional, but I feel sorry for him. He was making so much progress there for a while. You can't coddle your patients, Angie. You have to do what's best for them, even if they don't see it that way. I know. I'll be reporting it in the morning. Truth is, I'm starting to worry if Norton might hurt himself or someone else. If that happened, I don't know what I'd do. You can't take that kind of risk, Angie. Ange, you still there? The Black Barn. Oh, creepy. Whoops. I want to skip ahead too quickly. I'll rewind there. Oh, God. To be continued. And that, my friends, is issue 2 of Gideon Falls. hopefully that gave you a nice little bedtime. Well, give you some sweet dreams. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Eric says, can't stay awake any longer. Have a good rest of the stream, Ash. Good night, kids. That's because Eric can't handle scary stories, folks. Let's go up a little bit here. Ronnie says, who's editing this? The typo should not be there if it's being computer lettered. Yeah, I mean, it's an Image comic, so usually there's not much editing. Sometimes these guys will hire like people to do copy editing, but part of it, the struggle for me reading it is that the lettering was kind of done in this sort of like faded style, like, you know, like what do you call it, where it's, you know, like a weathered style to kind of add to the motif, but it made it hard to read for me, especially since I have to do this like not wearing my glasses. But let's see, Skip says he digs the art style. Yeah, Andre Sorrentino is, I think you've said you liked his stuff in the past. I like him as an illustrator. I'm not quite sure that I'm fond of this art as, how do we say, like as a comic book. I don't feel like I get, let me take this off of, go to full page here. I don't feel that I get, how do you say, like, the storytelling is not enhanced so much. It's really done by the writing, for me at least. That's just kind of my feeling so far about the book. But I am enjoying the story. I mean, it's intriguing. There's definitely a mystery going on with this black barn. What's going on? There's some common tropes of, you know, someone who's a mental patient, and no one thinks he's, you know, everyone thinks he's crazy, but he actually is on to something. And here I'm kind of flipping through the book so you can kind of see these pages, what they look like as full pages. Like I said, the illustration, I appreciate it from a visual art style, but I could easily be reading this story as a novel. I don't feel like it has to be a graphic novel per se. But that's just my take. Maybe that'll change as things go on. But it's just really a lot of dialogue and characters back and forth. I could see this also being really made into like a TV show. I really could see, like, I feel like as I'm reading this book, I'm like, this is written for the Netflix deal. And I know a lot of people say that as like a slight, like, oh, you know, but Lemire's a good writer, but it still does feel like this is a treatment like that would be better served in that medium, perhaps. But I'm enjoying it. Some of the stuff is a little, I don't know, some of the shots were a little confusing. Like I said, where you just have these stylistic images and then like off camera text boxes, and I wasn't quite sure who was talking, and you eventually figure it out, but it kind of throws you off as you're reading it sometimes, at least me. But I'm digging it. I'm digging this idea of reading a comic book for the first time live on air. You know, that X-Men book I read earlier, I love, but I've read that book, you know, half a dozen times before. So it's still fun, but it's not fresh. And this is fresh. And I know this is a well-loved book. A lot of people are big into Gideon Falls. And so I'm kind of like excited to learn what it is that people love so much about this book. And so hopefully you guys are enjoying it. So I will try to do this again soon. Maybe this week. I should be able to do, I might try to do, if I'm lucky, maybe I can do a stream. Like, I'm not doing anything really. It's more of just kind of coordinating with my roommate and stuff. But yeah, so late night streams. If I can do maybe one every night, bang out this series this week and do a bedtime, get my shit together so I don't have these errors, and maybe start a little bit earlier. Um, let's see. Marani says the sideways frames for the crazy character feels like ham-fisted. This guy's off kilter. Is off kilter to normal reality, sort of illustrating. Melissa says she's got to get going. Thanks for stopping by, Melissa. I appreciate it. I know it's late. So that is Gideon Falls number 2. I think that's probably right in the sweet spot for the length of the stream. I appreciate you guys joining me. Be on the lookout for this week around the 9 to 10 o'clock time frame, Pacific time, doing streams. And if you have any suggestions on how this could go better, what you could like to see improved, things that you like that were done well to do more of, obviously I'm willing to want to hear about that. It's challenging for me, at least, to do a stream by myself. I really much enjoy having other people to participate and have like a conversation with. I feel like just blathering out into the internets. It's just me here in silence talking, but it's almost like talking to a wall. It's kind of weird in a way. Feel like I'm talking to myself, but so yeah, I try to keep it engaging, entertaining, and if there's comics that you guys want to see down the road, suggestions, I'm always all ears, and I like hearing what you guys have to say. Believe me, I don't like being the only one talking. So your comments are always welcome and appreciated. With that, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream tonight. I thank you so much for showing up and saying hi and give me your support, and it means the world. So hope everyone is staying safe out there, your loved ones, everyone. Happy Easter, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Good night.